A very warm welcome to the teaching for the Parish Evangelisation cells. And the theme for our reflection is, I ask that they may all be one. We are in the octave of prayer for Christian unity, which has been officially observed in the Catholic Church since Pope Pius X, that is, since 1909. If theology is to bear fruit in dialogue, a climate of prayer and praise is undeniably an essential requirement. The Christians' commitment to ecumenism has been arisen in early 20th century by the liturgical and biblical renewal alongside common prayer among Christian ecumenists for the Spirit's gift of unity to the Church, that they may be one as you, Father, are in me, and I am in you. May they also be in us, so that the world may believe that you have sent me. Christian unity is a consequence, as a result of being united in God. Once united, Christians will be able to bear witness to the true identity of Jesus as the one sent by the Father. The Second Vatican Council between 1962 1965, an event of great magnitude in the last 500 years in the history of the Church, has actually signaled the Catholic Church's entry into this ongoing ecumenical commitment. One of its principal objectives was undoubtedly the visible restoration or reconciliation of all Christians in the unity of the one and only Church of Christ, which came out clear, loud and clear, in the Council's decree on ecumenism. It's called in Latin Unitatis Redintegratio, the restoration of unity. Not enough can be said about the role of the Jesuit biblical scholar of international repute, Cardinal Augustin Baer, a German ecumenist and a towering figure at the Council, in the evolution of this pioneering, groundbreaking document. For the first time since the Reformation, the decree speaks of other Christians as separated brothers and sisters, rather than heretics and apostates. Unity was bestowed on the Church by Christ from the beginning. And we believe that this unity subsists, I want to explain this word, subsists, innate, abides permanently in the Catholic Church. However, at present, the Church is not united, but divided into different Christian communions, all of whom claim to be followers of Christ, as if Christ himself were divided. This is not, my dear friends, this is not a matter to be taken lightly. Such division blatantly contradicts the will of Christ, scandalizes the world, and of course impedes the church's mission of evangelization. To make the objective of visible unity becoming a reality, the Council therefore urges all Catholics to cooperate fully and devote themselves actively and intelligently to the work of ecumenism. However, in order to respond appropriately, adequately to this call, all Christians are required: 1. To eliminate unkind words and actions and false perceptions among themselves. 2. To join together in dialogue in order to gain truer knowledge and more just appreciation of the richness of each denomination. 3. To cooperate with one another in addressing the pressing needs of humanity. 4th, to come together in prayer whenever possible. 5th, to examine the faithfulness of their own church to Christ, and when required, undertake vigorously, without hesitation, the task of renewal and reform. Our primary responsibility as Catholics towards our separated brothers and sisters is to make sure that our household is in order, so that its life may bear witness more clearly and faithfully to the teachings and institutions which have been handed down from Christ through the apostles. Though the Catholic Church has within itself the fullness, I must admit, we've got to reiterate this, the fullness of divine truth and grace, yet we very often fail to live by them with all the fervour that we should. Consequently, our separated brothers and sisters do not see the Catholic Church for what it truly and really is. Every Catholic must therefore strive to become a perfect witness which will manifest to all the true nature of the Catholic Church. My friends, division does not occur without human sin, and sin among all Christians. Where there are sins, there are also divisions, schisms, heresies, and disputes. Where there is virtue, however, there also are harmony and unity, from which arise the one heart and one soul of all believers. There can be no real and genuine work for the restoration of Christian unity without the Church's faithfulness to Christ's call to continual reformation and our interior conversion. Why? Because the longing for unity arises from what? From newness of attitudes of mind, from self-denial and unstinted love, which means new mindsets. The best way to further Christian unity is by trying to live holier lives according to the gospel. Renewal is indeed the driving force of the movement towards unity. Spiritual ecumenism, the warp and woof of ecumenism, which means the foundation of ecumenism itself, essentially consists of this change of heart and holiness of life, along with public and private prayer for unity of Christians. Prayers with other Christian churches are an effective way of asking for the grace of unity. And they are still genuine expression of our binding ties with our separated brothers and sisters. Christ always gives his church the gift of unity, but we must pray and work to maintain, reinforce, and perfect the unity that Christ wills for her. The desire to recover the unity of all Christians is a gift of Christ and call of the Holy Spirit. Sadly, regrettably, the thorniest issue in spiritual ecumenism is certainly common worship. When I say common worship, it's not common prayer. Common worship translates the Latin expression of communicatio in sacris, or sacramental sharing. We cannot take part in the sacraments, in their sacraments, and they cannot take part in our sacraments. Especially when it comes to the Eucharist, intercommunion. Why? Because the Eucharist is both an expression of the unity that exists and a means of sharing the grace of unity. The Council, in this decree, therefore forbids Eucharistic sharing or Eucharistic hospitality. But, and this is the revolutionary side, it acknowledges the grace, that grace to be obtained sometimes commends intercommunion, Eucharistic sharing. Now, what is the goal and process of spiritual ecumenism? And these have been set out and were lucidly expressed by the Belgian scholar and ecumenist Cardinal Mercier in 20th century, the beginning of the 20th century, who held regular conversations in the first half of the 20th century with the Anglican ecumenist Lord Halifax. And he says, in order to unite with one another, we must love one another. In order to love one another, we must know one another. In order to know one another, we must go and meet one another. Now, the question for you, for your discussion, is this. How much do I value spiritual ecumenism? And by spiritual ecumenism, I mean, and the Council understands these points. It consists of 1, new mindset and holiness. 2, public and private prayer for Christian unity. 3, the love we must have for other Christians. 4, we need to know them, not knowing about them, but knowing of them. And finally, we need to meet them. So the question is, how much do we value this spiritual ecumenism, especially praying with members of other Christian churches? God bless.